Have you ever found yourself acting entirely out of character and wondered why? Welcome to the intriguing world of manipulation, a covert corner of dark psychology. Manipulation, at its core, is about influence. It's about bending someone's thoughts, feelings, and actions to your will. It's a subtle art, an invisible push that can make you act contrary to your instincts, and yet you might not even realize it's happening. Manipulators are skilled puppeteers, pulling at the strings of human behavior. They deploy a variety of techniques, from flattery to intimidation, preying on your vulnerabilities and exploiting your emotions. They weave intricate webs of deceit, creating situations where you feel you have no other choice but to comply with their wishes. And the most disconcerting part? They could be anyone, a friend, a family member, a colleague. Manipulators are everywhere, but understanding their tactics can help us avoid their influence. Manipulation isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's hidden behind a mask of kindness or concern. Let's delve into two real-life case studies to illustrate this point. Our first case study involves emotional manipulation. Picture this: a woman named Jane, who has always been a people-pleaser, finds herself in a relationship with a man named Mark. Mark, aware of Jane's need to please, uses this to his advantage. He often expresses dissatisfaction with Jane's actions, causing her to feel guilty. He'd say things like, "If you really cared about me, you wouldn't do this." Over time, Jane starts changing her behavior to avoid Mark's disappointment, not realizing she's being emotionally manipulated. Mark's use of guilt and criticism to control Jane is a classic example of emotional manipulation. Let's move on to our second case study, where manipulation is achieved through deception. Consider the scenario of a businessman, let's call him David, who is trying to close a deal with another company. The other company's representative, whom we'll call Mike, presents David with the contract. Mike assures David that the contract is standard and urges him to sign without reading thoroughly. He says, "We've done this with multiple companies and they've all been satisfied." David, trusting Mike's words, signs the contract only to discover much later that it included clauses that were unfavorable to his business. Here, Mike's distortion of the truth and his rush to get the contract signed are classic tactics of manipulation through deception. These stories aren't just tales. They're real-life instances of manipulation, where people's emotions and trust are exploited for personal gain. The manipulators in these stories, Mark and Mike, used different strategies. One targeted emotions and the other targeted trust. However, their end goal was the same: control and influence. Remember, manipulation is not always about outright force or coercion. It can be as subtle as a word, a gesture, or even silence. These stories reveal the subtle and insidious nature of manipulation. So, how can we spot a manipulator? Well, let's delve into this. Manipulators often use frequent lying as a tool. They weave a web of deceit so intricate that it becomes challenging to separate fact from fiction. They're like actors on a stage, playing a role so convincingly that you start to question your own reality. Now, another sign of a manipulator is their knack for playing the victim. They excel in turning the tables, making you feel like the bad guy while they don the halo. In this game of smoke and mirrors, they're always the innocent party. Blaming others is another card in their deck. By shifting the blame, they expertly dodge responsibility. And then, there's guilt. Manipulators have a peculiar talent for using guilt as a leash, making you feel obligated to them. Recognizing these signs is the first step to avoiding manipulation. So, let's keep our eyes open and stay one step ahead. Now that we know how to spot a manipulator, how can we avoid their influence? The answer lies in 3 key strategies. First, set clear boundaries. Manipulators often exploit those who struggle to say no. So practice assertiveness and don't be afraid to decline requests that make you uncomfortable. It's your right to protect your own well-being. Second, seek support from others. Share your experiences with trusted friends or family members. They can provide a fresh perspective and help you see situations more objectively. Remember, isolation is a manipulator's playground. Finally, trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Your gut feelings are often the first warning signs of manipulation. So stand firm, reach out, and trust yourself. These are your shields against the subtle tricks of manipulators. Remember, knowledge is power. By understanding manipulation, we can protect ourselves and our loved ones from its harmful effects.